What's up?
Hello, my beautiful light beings. Welcome back to the Magic Exists podcast. I'm Dani Margeaux, and we have a wonderful guest today. Her name is Jessica Marie, and she is a longtime friend of almost a decade. She is a lifestyle coach, among many things. And the first question I want to ask you, Jess, is what is your most strong clair and how does it represent in your life?
I'm so excited to be here, Danielle. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I'm just really excited to just kind of dive deeper into all the things of magic. And yeah, I just can't believe we've been friends for like almost 10 years. It's so crazy. But yes, I would say I want to give a little bit of context to this, if that's okay. So you asked like what my strongest flair is. And so I'm assuming everybody on this podcast knows all the esoteric and energetic terms. So I don't even need to go into depth there. But really, I did not know I was any sort of intuitive person ever until I actually got attuned to Reiki back in, gosh, what, 2024, 2022 or 20, no, lied. 2023, I got attuned to level 1 Reiki and I just felt really connected to it. So among like life and business coaching, I also am a breathwork facilitator. And that was like my first entry point into spirituality, first entry point into any of like my gifts. And so I wanted to get certified in it to like really help my clients move through any limits, blocks, and energetic like leakages in their body and also in their business and their life. And so from there, I wanted to go a little bit deeper. And so I didn't necessarily know what that meant. But after I had a really powerful breathwork session, I was like, breathwork is the thing. And so when I was kind of talking about it with some friends, they were like, oh, you should really look into Reiki and energy healing. And I was like, hands on, like all I envisioned myself was doing like this hands on healing thing. But I didn't necessarily know it was Reiki. So I got certified and attuned to level 1. And let me tell you, like, everything opened. It was just my ears were ringing nonstop. My hands were hot. Like the things that they tell you that you're like, yeah, whatever, like actually really happened. And it was just, to me, it was just so mind blowing because I'm like, I thought this was fake in a way, right? Like you don't really believe energy until you actually like experience it yourself. And so it was a whole thing. Like one of the times, like I remember waking up in the middle of the night and I thought I was sleeping, but now that I like really think about it, like I actually was like awake. I was doing like light language and just like doing Reiki in like the middle of my room, like sitting up in my bed and then like passed back out. And I was like, was that a dream? And so I started hearing things and stuff like that. And I was low key freaking out because I'm like, what's wrong with me? This is not normal. Am I paranoid? And so the person that attuned me, I like reached out to her about it and she's like, no, like your gifts are opening now and all of that. And so she kind of gave me some good things for boundaries and whatnot. And so after that kind of integrated, and it's been what, probably a year and a half from the first attunement, I'm only level 2 attuned. I started to recognize that I think a lot of my I have clairaudience, but I also think, and again, I don't know all of the like actual names, but I feel like my clairaudience is like through my mind. Like I don't actually hear voices. And I also get like intuitive feeling. So I feel like I'm definitely still developing my gifts as a healer, but that's what I've realized so far. I mean, there's many other spiritual experiences, but like that's been a high level of what I've experienced so far.
I love that you shared that because my experience was more subtle, I guess you can say, where I didn't feel any of those things. It was more like the cognizance of like claircognizance of deeply knowing. And so
Oh,
your clairaudience, I want to talk a little bit more about that because clairaudience is hearing messages from spirit. And so a lot of times we think, oh, we're actually physically hearing it because people do hear things in this space. And in the last podcast, we had Chelsea, my best friend, who you also know, and she would literally hear her name being yelled in the middle of the night or in her space. So this is a little different. And I also have claircognizance in the way that you're describing, where you hear it as like, I hear it as my own voice
mhm.
coming through in my head, but the messages that are coming through, like I would never say those things. And that's how I know and trust that it's spirit.
Yes. Yeah. I resonate with that.
Is that similar to how it's like coming through for you?
Yeah, I think that it just depends on like what I'm doing. Like for me and Danielle, you and I have done sessions together where like to help strengthen that voice, to help strengthen the channeling that I'm feeling. And sometimes I think it's tricky for me because sometimes when I'm meditating and I ask a question, it's like I think I get like so tripped up of like, is that my ego or is that like my guides? But I will say when I'm doing sessions with clients, that those are things that I'm like, that wasn't me. So it's really interesting to see the differences, or maybe where I'm like egoically getting in my own way of like really hearing the messages. Because when I'm working on a client, it'll be very, very like, okay, go to the feet. Okay, go to the solar plexus, or like a certain like thing will come through. And depending, I may share that, I may not. So I'm like, these are random thoughts that I'm thinking that are like, I'm not putting effort. But when I'm actually meditating, sometimes I'm like, okay, answer. What am I looking for? There's been moments though that I will say that like things come through that I'm like, that was not my thought. That was not mine. I remember this one time when I first got attuned, I think I was getting sick, and I was like looking through like my medicine cabinet to see if anything that I could take. And then all of a sudden I got this thought was like, go to an Ayurvedic practitioner. And I was like, what? Like that was random. So I'm like, okay, that wasn't mine. You know what I mean? So things like that have happened, but I would love for them to happen more regularly, which is something that I want to practice more on.
Beautiful. I love it. So this is like, I guess, 2024 elevated, evolved versions of Jess and Dani right now. But when we first met, it was 2016 and I was living in Pasadena and you were in Hollywood. And so I'll preface this by saying we met on Bumble BFF.
Yeah.
Um, and we met just randomly. I was trying to make more friends because I had just got back from college and moved back in with my parents. I was saving up to get my own place. And I was just looking to connect with people. And we were still, drinking and kind of just going out in the nightlife. And I remember you were like, how about you just come over to my place and then we'll go out? And I was like, it was just chill and relax. And like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty outgoing where I was totally fine with that. I was like, yeah, I can just go to your house and I've never met you and like we can go out. And it was like totally fine and fun. I feel like it was all so divine timing because we were meant to go through this like journey kind of simultaneously. Because now, of course, I think you went through this whole journey first, and I'll let you kind of start because I know when I met you, you were already kind of thinking about leaving your 9 to 5 and like doing something more. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey on that?
Yeah, and I remember that year so vividly because that was really when I just moved to LA from Ohio, and I was very focused on finding my place in the world and finding my place in LA. I will like humbly admit that I was in a place of just like soul searching. I didn't know who I was. I was trying to fit in. I was trying to wear many hats. And so I went to school for fashion and for marketing. And so I moved to LA to start my fashion career, and I started working for a really big company in LA. And it was really exciting at the time. And I don't regret it at all. I learned so many things. But at that moment, I was just such a 3D level of myself where I just wanted to go out. I wanted to meet people. And I met amazing people, AKA one of you, Danielle. And I was working for a corporate job, and probably 2 years into it, I was faced with 30 pounds overweight. For me, like I've never gained more than 5 pounds and fluctuated. And so for that, that was something that was like really alarming for me to like really recognize where my priorities were. And I was like doing drugs, I was going to the clubs, I was drinking, I was eating out. I mean, and also I think my lifestyle changed too because I was working retail before I moved to LA. So I was on my feet all the time. When I got my corporate job, I was just sitting all day, snacking. And so my hormones were also, I think, getting affected. All to say, it got me really disciplined into the gym and into nutrition because I had to. I hated the way I looked. My self-esteem was like at its all-time low. I just was like, and also I was like not happy with my job at the time. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like I really need to get my shit together, and really took a hard look in the mirror. When I started to dive deeper into nutrition and training, I actually fell in love with the gym, and it gave me an opportunity, I think, to look at how I was working, and I wasn't happy with what I was doing. And that gave me an opportunity to say, I think I want to help other people. And so I started sharing my journey on social media, getting a lot of feedback to the point where it was like, maybe I should make this into a career. And so me being super logical at the moment, I was like, I need evidence that this is possible. So, and I'm a big believer in myself. Like I will always believe, even if it's like I want to sell like something that makes no sense. Like if I'm obsessed with it, I will do it. But that was a moment where I was like, oh my God, like a lot of things are coming up, right? Like, oh my God, I moved to LA and I got this big job. And what's wrong with me for throwing it away, right? Putting that in air quotations. And so I started to realize that it was possible. That's when social media, specifically Instagram, was booming and people were becoming coaches in multiple different industries. Then that's when I was like, okay, this is a go. And then I just got obsessed with trying to figure out what that looked like. Got certified in nutrition, got certified in personal training, started my online coaching business. And then I gave myself a goal to hit a certain amount of clients. Then after that, I was like, peace out, company and corporate, I'm done. So that was like a really big shift for me to get to become an entrepreneur.
That's so beautiful. And so now it's been about, what do you say, like 4 or 5 years that you've been like in the entrepreneurial space and like from leaving the 9 to 5?
Yeah, it's been 2019 was the year that I decided that I was going to start my own business. It was April of 2019 when I quit my corporate company. And that's when I was like, okay, I am going to make this shift happen. And that's everything kind of flipped on its head after that in a good way.
I love that. So I want to talk about how now you're incorporating like your intuitive gifts and all these beautiful things that are coming to you and how you're infusing that into your business now. Because I know you kind of transitioned from like the physical and then you were like doing bodybuilding a little bit. And then now you're like kind of infusing. And I want to talk about also like the psilocybin and all those beautiful journeys like you've been on.
Mm, my favorite topic ever. Okay, so I'm gonna give like the shortest possible answer. So, and like, Danielle, I think you can really attest to this too, is that you start to shift and change and evolve, and so does your business. So, as you've heard recently, I was a fitness coach, nutrition, worked with women, specifically was obsessed with helping them with mindset. And I started to get clients that were having deeper rooted issues that the gym wouldn't solve. And so from there, and also synchronistically, my friends that were doing fitness started to shift into empowerment coaching or life coaching. And I'm like, what is happening? Like it was like a big ripple happening in probably 2020, right when the pandemic happened. And so I was working at Equinox in Santa Monica at the same time too, because I wanted to build clientele and then my vision changed and all this stuff. And so once I actually got fired from Equinox during the pandemic, I had this huge awakening and I was like, I am meant for so much more than this. And I don't know. It was just like, it's like the first time you have an awakening, it's like everything's in Technicolor. And I started to dive deeper into my beliefs. I started to really understand how I thought, why I thought certain ways. I was in a relationship at the time. So that brought up a lot of wounding. And so I really started working on myself. And that's when I wanted to evolve my business into life coaching. And so I started to um, take on some spiritual life coaching clients. And I built this whole like 6 month program, like baby beginner, like how to meditate, why to meditate, how to get into like the right friend groups and all this stuff. Like such a great like one-on-one, like when you're ready to start your healing and spiritual journey. And so I did that for a while. Then I got really burnt out and I don't know, I think it was the universe saying like you're ready for like a new evolution of yourself, a new iteration. So like my business came crashing down. I didn't take any clients for like almost a year. I was just like in a space where I needed to like really heal and work on myself. And that's really where my gift started turning on in the capacity. I wouldn't say gifts. I'd say that's really when spirit and universe was really speaking to me, saying like showing me all these patterns. Like my abortion came up that I had when I was 16, things that like didn't make sense why I was all of a sudden thinking about them. But I was like, there's a reason for that. And then I just got really obsessed in like a healthy way to just understand myself. I hired a life and business coach, all the things. And so we can fast forward towards the end of 2022 was when I really started to look at like, I love working with lifestyle clients to help them through like their emotions and belief systems and their relationships. But I also was finding this new fire inside to help other coaches and entrepreneurs like bring that fire out within them and find their soul's purpose. My entire coaching container is called the Purposeful Soul Project, and it's been with me for almost 5 years. And I don't feel misaligned for changing it. Like I love the name of it because I think it fits everything. And so that's where I'm like, I want to come back to that root of soul's purpose. And when I started to dive deeper into that aspect, I'm actually going to pause before I get into 2023 because you mentioned the psilocybin and all the plant medicine and stuff. 2020 was when I had the awakening. 2021 was when I started to do the spiritual life coaching. And then that's when I started to dive deeper into mushrooms and things like that. Again, this is when we talked originally about the whole like clairaudience, claircognizance, because it's like when universe and spirit are speaking to me, they'll just like implant the idea or the thing already in me. And it's like, oh, okay, like all of a sudden I started thinking about mushrooms out of nowhere. I'm putting all these air quotes because I'm like, it's not out of nowhere, but like it wasn't my idea. And so I did a retreat in 2021 in California. And that was my first experience with psilocybin. It wasn't a super deep journey, but it was enough to like open my mind to it. And then that's when I was like, okay, I think mushrooms are like my medicine to start with. So I did that. And then that kind of opened up a few things within myself. 2022 was when I like quit my business and I was like, I'm having a mental like breakdown. Like, who am I? Like everything was like distorting. Like I was like, what do I want? Who am I? What is this? What is that? What's my purpose? Da, 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 right? And so that was really, I think, an initiation for me because then I sat with mushrooms again, but like in a macro way. So I did almost like 3 grams. It's neither here nor there. But when I did that and sat in a ceremonial setting for the first time in 2022 was when the big visionary gift came through. I want to elaborate in this because this is really where everything started opening. So as you can tell from the story, I hope that like you're seeing that there's like little seeds being planted and certain things that I didn't necessarily know were leading me up into this point. Like breathwork was my first entry point into my intuition and my relationship, and like from fitness to life coaching, and then started playing with the mushrooms a little bit. And so this was like the first time I ever saw my spirit guides. And the biggest message I got was, you are a medicine woman and you are here to hold. That was it. They didn't give me a lot, but they were just like showing me certain things like, you are here to do this and you are here to do that. And so I got out of that experience very disoriented because I'm like, what does that mean for my coaching business? And I'm sure a lot of people feel that way sometimes, where they feel like they're meant for more and they're doing something right now that's like fulfilling, but it's not exactly where they think they should be, or they just know this like burning desire of like, I am meant for more.
And I love that you're sharing like the whole journey, because for listeners out here, a lot of people wait until they find that one thing that's like really resonant. But as we evolve and grow over time, what we desire and our frequency changes as well. And so like, if there's any advice I can give like new entrepreneurs or business owners, it's like, just start, just do it, because you'll already have, not only are you creating the foundation, you're creating like experience for yourself, even if it's not what you're meant to do forever, which I know I'm not meant to do Akashic Records forever. Like I know I'm not supposed to teach Reiki forever. It's like a very like in this decade or in this like maybe few years until where I'm supposed to be. But it's like really beautiful that you were able to like, you were all in on the fitness and you were all in on the coaching. And now that these like little messages from you, your higher self, spirit guides are like kind of aligning you more focused into what you're meant to be doing. And it's just so beautiful that like we are still in this journey and we don't need to rush it to where we're going. It's like, we're here right now. You sat with yourself for a year to just like really get clarity and really just be in this moment so that you can give like more fully. And I absolutely like love that.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like when you're in the thick of it, so if anyone is in the thick of it, just focus on being present with what is coming up for you right now, because I'll be honest, if I didn't resist so much, I probably would be in a different place by now. However, that wasn't my journey. I needed to learn a lot of lessons. So, and where I'm at right now versus where I was, I mean, there's just, we can't continue to judge ourselves. Everyone's journey is so different, and the lessons you're here to specifically learn, like you can't bypass the lessons. And so yeah, I sat with myself and I really started getting clear of like what this looks like. And there were certain things coming up about my relationship and just certain areas of my life where I wasn't being authentic and where I really craved authenticity. I craved more meaningful friendships. I craved like more of a business that was in alignment with how I wanted to do business versus a lot of what other people think that I should do, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that too. And so let's bring it to here, 2024 in September. I sat with psilocybin one more time last year, and that was more of just like a cleansing of just like nothing was really, really bad. Nothing was like intense. It was just like I just was feeling the yearning to like learn more about the medicine and sit with it. And in between, like, and I was also again Reiki attuned, so I was like really getting to know certain spirit guides and stuff, which has been really cool. They've been building on itself, which has been really awesome. And that like last journey was I can't give you a certain like just like sum up, but I will say it definitely just kind of started clearing a lot of energetic ancestral things that in past life I felt like. And so it kind of prepared me for grandma ayahuasca. And so ayahuasca actually came to me, I wouldn't say she, like her entity, but like the message of going to sit with her came in my first psilocybin session in 2022. But I was like, I am ready for that, right? And like, cause she's like the grandmother of all plants. And so she can be very discerning. She can be very harsh, but loving. It's just another level of plant medicine. So I finally felt ready for that. So in June of this past year, I sat with her in Costa Rica, which was just such a dream, so beautiful. Many challenging lessons. I don't need to go into the depth of that, but I will say I came out of that knowing more of my purpose, understanding more of like what this medicine woman path looks like. And so I've been slowly unraveling what that is for me without necessarily acting on it, but more of like, what is the archetype? What is like my medicine? And really acknowledging where I want to explore more educational wise, where I want to sit more with things of that sort. So bringing me to here, I recognize that I am absolutely obsessed with helping coaches, helping service providers, facilitators, space holders step into their power, become a badass leader. Like I always talk about becoming your own inner leader and people that want to unlock their visionary gifts. And I've also really love, which also came so deeply into like my last journey with plant medicine was I love helping women do the deep work, do the deep healing work, and really allow them to heal their broken heart, right? We sit through grief, we sit through loss, we sit through dishonesty. We also have so much past experiences that shape us who we are. I mean, we still live in patriarchy, right? And that affects us, that affect our ancestors and all those different things. And so that's really where I think the medicine woman is kind of coming in and she's ready to be explored. So yeah, I'll just say that it's been such a beautiful journey and I'm really excited to open more of my spiritual gifts and implement them more into my current offerings and just expand that.
So beautiful. Before we get into your current offerings, because I know you're launching something really soon that's really exciting, but I kind of want to talk about psilocybin a little bit. If you can give a little explanation, because I've never done it ceremonially. And for my listeners who maybe don't know what that is, like maybe how, I know you've told me and revealed to me like how your spirit guides have come through and they've been kind of, I don't want to say aggressive, but they've been like very stern with like what they were saying. And because I feel like my guides are very gentle and like
Yeah.
nice. And so when I go into the records, like I need to be in like when I first started, I had to be in a really, really quiet room. I would shut all the lights. Like I had to wear earplugs. I had to wear a mask because it was like I had to be in this really, really, really deep state of meditation. Now I can do it like as we're talking, I'm channeling. But I want to see like your experience with plant medicine to see like how you access the gifts and if it's different than like your normal day to day.
Great question. So for me, a lot of I mean, I'm sure with anybody sitting with any sort of psychedelic medicine in the right container, you're gonna get a lot of downloads. But I do think that everyone's journeys are different. And I was also told from lived experience that not everybody gets to see and hear directly from their guides. And it's a really like special, and I'm not calling myself I'm special or unique, but it's not often that that happens. And so when that does happen, like there is something that is within yourself that I almost feel like you're chosen to do certain work. Like Danielle, like you are chosen here to channel, to do Akashic records. Like that's not my thing, maybe down the road, but right now that's not, right? And so I feel like people on this earth plane are chosen for specific things. And so for me, like again, I have always been like trusting my gut, but I never really, it didn't start amplifying until I think I turned my antenna on, right? And that's what Reiki does essentially. And so with psilocybin, so psilocybin is the magic mushroom. There's 14,000 different types of mushrooms, which is really cool. Didn't know that. So psilocybin is a psychedelic plant medicine. And the reason why we call it plant medicine is because it's supposed to be used as like a sacred act. And so when you are intentional with taking it, like I will never take psilocybin anymore to party because they're teachers and they just don't like that. And so sometimes, and not to say I have had bad experiences on that, but if you take too much, like you can go into a journey. And so journeys, ceremonies, what have you, same thing is basically when you're intentional with taking the medicine and being with yourself. It's just a deep, it's a deep sense of introspection, and it helps connect certain neural pathways that wouldn't connect. So for example, maybe you have a fear of imposter syndrome in your business. And like every time you try to share an offering or something, you always like goof it up, or you just can't really get on your Instagram story and share, or maybe you have a hard time putting yourself out there because you always think you're not good enough. And you're like, I have no idea where that comes from. Sitting in certain ceremony, sitting with plant medicine can help create the connection of why you feel that way. And so for me, I love root cause understanding of like why I am the way that I am. Why do I have this certain thing coming up, this, that, and the other? Because I think that gives me empowerment and also takes back my control, takes back my power when I know where it's coming from. And so basically, when you're sitting in these ceremonies or journeys, it can really help connect the dots that were never connected, that you may not be able to connect in the 3D realm. Even with trauma like techniques, you might not be fully able to connect those memories. So these plant medicines, ayahuasca, psilocybin, peyote, other different psychedelics can really help create new neural pathways so that you're basically expanding your consciousness. You're understanding more of yourself. You can do a lot of healing work in these experiences. So you come out like feeling almost refreshed because you're like, whoa, I just did a lot of inner work that I just didn't know I needed to do. So they just give you a lot of new awarenesses. And yes, it can be overwhelming, but like having the right support system after is just so imperative. Like it's more important than the journey itself. So you can actually make understanding. But yeah, that's really why I sought them out, just for that purpose of just really getting to know myself on that really deep level.
So beautiful. And yeah, what you were saying about like integrating after is actually sometimes the most important part, or is the most important part more than the actual journey or experience. And like for example, like my coaching that I did, a year coaching last year, took me 8 months to integrate all that and create these new patterns in my subconscious for new patterns, thoughts, and behaviors. And so it's just like, it's just so beautiful. And I want to bring up something you said about, you're like, oh, some people are meant to see your guides, or some people are meant for specific work. And likely I want to like expand on this, because if you are feeling drawn to something, if you're feeling drawn to the Akashic records or entrepreneurship or doing things just differently than how they are presented in this, patriarchy society, or masculine society, likely you are the one chosen. So don't think like, oh, if like, oh, I feel this way, oh, maybe I'm not that person. No, like if you have any inkling of desire for this kind of work, it's you. Like that's you.
Too, right? Like there were moments too where I would get, for example, I think a big part of my work, like I shared, that also was more exposed and grounded when I sat with ayahuasca this past year, was doing a lot of like the feminine healing work and sensuality work, and helping women heal their heart. And like I do that work, but I never specialized in it. And also like specifically helping women through the wounded masculine, which is one of my core wounds. My dad the relationships I had, like just all wounded masculine. My mom is also extremely masculine. So I have a big masculine wound. And that is a big part of the work that I want to do and that I'm being called to. But the triggering part was it's like when I saw women in their power, sensual, showing up in Instagram, like self-expressed, it would make me feel like, ew, this is gross. Like, or like, what, put clothes on, whatever, right? But then that was something within me that I needed to heal, that I'm like, oh my gosh, I have sexual trauma. Oh my gosh, I have a wound of like really being seen in all of my full self, my femininity, right? So it's like, with what you're saying, if you have any inkling about something that you're like, desires, I heard this and I'll never forget it. And I always believe it now, is that if you have a desire, it was meant for you. And so same thing with triggers, like it might not be like your life's purpose, but there's something within there to explore that like you're feeling triggered by. And so by me exploring more of that trigger, I realized like, oh my gosh, I'm actually here to also help women do this work too. But I'm not fully integrated and embodied in that yet. So I'm still working on that. But yeah, all to say that it's really important to see where you're being activated.
Thank you so much for sharing that so vulnerably and just like so intentionally, because everyone has different journeys. And that's like my point of like expanding this podcast to bring other people on to show you like there's different ways and there's different styles. And it's, yes, I love what you said about following that desire. If you have a desire, it's meant for you, because that's such a good, like powerful statement. And so I want to talk about, you are launching something coming up. And if you want to talk a little bit more about that.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. I'm so excited. So I have my Inner Leader Mastermind coming up this October, and it is for coaches, for visionaries who are really ready to step into their power as a leader and create a six-figure offer creation and really learn how to utilize their voice in their space. I'm so excited because we're moving through different archetypes like the visionary, the embodied CEO. We're moving through the nervous system, embodiment, and then also like building our empire. So really learning how to utilize social media in a way where we feel convicted in our power, creating an offer sequence where it feels like just really rooted in ourselves. And the biggest thing is I'm teaching you how to access your own power. This isn't strategy. This isn't you're going to do this, this, and this, get this result. It's like, how do I access my own inner wisdom and get through the noise, through the mindset, through somatic work, through expanding our capacity to step deeper into who we are actually meant to be, and then create from our heart space. That is really where things sell. And this is my third iteration of it. So I'm just really excited. Like as I grow and evolve, like the program grows and evolves. So yeah, if you are a coach, if you are a visionary, if you are a space holder, facilitator, moving into entrepreneurship and you're just like wanting to hit the ground running with more of this inner work that needs to happen, this program is for you. And I'm just really excited to just continue spreading that message.
That sounds so transformative. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And for someone actually who has been coached by Jess, I will say that you like your coaching style and now to be in groups, I'm sure like the medicine in there is just so powerful, except especially from every like journey and every level of your journey that you have. And you have like a little bit of wisdom from every step. And so like every level of entrepreneurship, whether you're like beginning or a master, I'm sure this like program is going to be like meant for you.
Yeah. 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 The evolution. And I used to think that it was such a curse that like you would want to pivot or transition or evolve. And you're like, oh my God, my business has to change or my messaging is changing. And I would get so anxious because I'm like, why can't I just pick one thing? But I started to realize like your life's work is developing. And so wherever you are on your journey and you're not fully 100% with it, you can still teach things with where you are. That's something that I wish I was more convicted of when I was moving through all these different loops. But also, I think the beauty of having your own personal coaching business is that when you evolve, your clients evolve and also your offerings evolve. And I think that's like the best part where you're not just stuck in one thing all the time. And I think that we need to normalize more of the pivots and the transitions and the evolution, because if we stay the same, then things stay the same. But if we grow and other things grow, then like people are going to want to grow with us.
I feel like that message was for me because that's literally what I'm going through. And as you know, I just started my LLC last May. So it's only been a year and a half. And I'm feeling that pivot right now. And I'm feeling exactly what you were describing, that annoyance of like, why can't I just create mastery in this thing I'm doing, but I know I'm just meant for more. And so even
You
if it's
are meant.
uncomfortable,
That's the thing. And I think that's I wish I realized was like the evolution and you shifting and pivoting is your mastery of yourself and of your offerings. So it's
mhm,
like you can get this is where I think I got stuck because I was like, oh my God, I should be diving deeper into this subject and that subject. And I love to learn, but also I'm like, I think I'm right now mastering myself, and self mastery, I think, is my topic of learning right now. And all these other modalities are incredible and I want to learn them, but like right now I'm like learning myself. And again, as like a project, I don't want to get too much into human design, but like as a projector, our wisdom is actually from lived experience, and that's what we're here to share. So really, I don't need any certification. Granted, I do because I love to learn. Like if we think about that standpoint of like, could we teach from this level of Jessica? Could we teach from this level of Dani? Could we teach this level of X person? And what is the wisdom you have to share now? So as you're evolving, you can still share the things that you have so much wisdom in right now. I think we always think we need to be in the next level or whatnot to like share and sell things.
yeah, I love that. And to add to that, when you are saying like you're evolving and then your aligned clients evolve too, I love that because that was one advice that was given to me that I always remembered is like, you are teaching to that version of you like 2 years ago. And so, of course, you know, you have more information than that version of you 2 years ago. What does that version of you like need to know? And it's sharing from that place. And from that place, you will always have wisdom and knowledge and be able to provide support. And it's like that refinement and like what you said, creating mastery in self, I think is just such a beautiful way of seeing it.
Yeah, that is like my biggest advice. And if I could go back in time, that is something I would tell myself is like, don't get so caught up on what everyone else thinks you should do and do this and do that and get that certification and do this versus like what you're feeling really pulled to now. Like there were so many things that I wish I learned at the time, but like now I'm getting into them organically, and I think there's just so much wisdom there to like what you're currently interested in right now learning, whatever that is.
So beautiful, Jess. So much impactful medicine in this episode. So tell us a little bit more how we can apply for this beautiful visionary container and where we can find you.
Yeah, so I'll give Danielle a link you can put in the show notes if you want to apply, and you'll also see the website so that all the information will be there. And then I love hanging out on Instagram. It is like my freaking jam. I'll show up there every day. It's like just my little community, my little hub of like self-expression and just little love bombs every day. So come see me on there. It's at Jessica Marie Step. All that I'm sure will be in the show notes. But yeah, come say hi. Let me know how the episode landed for you. And yeah, come hang out.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jess. I like just love this conversation and want to bring just all these beautiful souls that I've met along my journey to share their experience as well.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, love you, girl. Bye.